Hello, welcome to this week in focus, and a dramatic week it has been indeed, as government's respect for multi-party democracy and priorities came under close scrutiny. Tuesday saw opposition politicians, retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye and Kampala Lord Mayor under house arrest, as government blocked them from meeting Parliament to discuss the highly contested constitutional reforms. Teachers had their hopes of a 10% salary increment dashed in spite of their sit-down strike, while judges received vehicles to facilitate efficiency, even as it emerged that Janet Kataha Museveni will not seek re-election come 2016. Details of these stories and so much more coming right up here on Weekend Focus. I am Anita Mwangazi, joined by our sign language interpreter. Welcome. Uganda's First Lady, Janet Kataha Museveni, will not seek re-election as Ruhama County MP in next year's general elections. Mrs. Museveni, who is also the Minister for Karamoja Affairs, has represented Ruhama in Ntungamo district for 10 years now.
Sima kandi nimbisimira Ruhanga. Mbwenu banywani banje, ekikuru kyandetera kwetenga kugambaho naimwe n'okubagambira ekintu kintuire ninyenda kubagambira konka nkaba ninkitegura ngo mbanze manye buzimazima ko yaba nicyo Ruhanga angambire ngo ntahabana na Ruhanga mwene hati nimanyira kimwe ntaine kubanganisa kuona ngo Ruhanga nicyo icyari kunyendeza mbona kubo ngo mbururo burkwija 2016 nyoti nkuza kwemerera.
Ntungamo district is filled with mixed reactions after the pronouncement of the area member of parliament Ruhama constituency, Mama Janet Kataha Museveni's announcement that she retires from active politics.
Her retirement comes not as a surprise. She says she had taken long thinking about it. It comes at a time when the county needed her most, according to Ruhama Sub-County Chairperson Tom Romushana, who attended the announcement meeting.
Janet has worked to the maximum, because when you see the roads, when you see the institutions, the schools, the health units, and so many things, Janet has really worked to the maximum, and the people of Ruhama, to tell them the truth, if you go to the secondary school, which is called Mama Janet, that is an impact.
Her announcement, however, meets a mixed reaction from her electorates, some of who think they had no access to her for their demands, while others think her predecessor will face it rough.
Yatuwa amasanyarazi naye yagateeka mu busenta abo mubyara bawansi tebagafuna nakati abarara bahemba busora naye buri kintu cyora cyabada yagara kukora abada agenda kikora ndaba muntu agenda kudamu kugenda ku ntebe ye ngenda jya mukarubira.
Mukyala Museveni ndaba ali mukyala akaddiye naye bwaba mukulembeze ne wagenda w'abantu abalala nja kuleetera eggwanga okuba bulungi. Abantu baba balina bingi bye baagala kumwebuuzaako naye bamutya kwegamba nti naye lwakubanga nti muka President Museveni ne basigala awo ng'ebirowoozo byabwe nga bali mu mutima.
However, her announcement sets a precedent that can be followed by Ugandan and African leaders.
And especially in Ruhama constituency. Alan Stabaruka, WBS TV.
In other news this week, police Tuesday blocked opposition leaders, former FDC President retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye and Kampala Lord Mayor Erias Lukwago. The two leaders were not allowed to leave their residences both in Kasangati and Wakaliga respectively. Both Lukwago and Besigye were supposed to be part of a delegation to meet with officials sitting on the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee aimed at handing in their proposals for the constitutional and electoral reforms amendments. Shamim Bataliwo reported.
As early as 5 o'clock in the morning, police had heavily deployed at the home of former president of the opposition Front for Democratic Change Party, Dr. Kizza Besigye. The police officers blocked off all roads leading to Besje's home found in Kasangati, a Kampala suburb. Apart from journalists, no one else was allowed to leave or get into the residence of Dr. Kizza Besigye. According to Divisional Commander Kasangati, Fred Ahimbisiwe, Besigye with other political activists had plans of causing mayhem in the city centre.
We have live information that him among others, including Lukwago, those of Ingrid Turinawe, Munyagwa, they are planning and they have been mobilizing many people to participate like in hooliganism in the city center. And yet the city center is a market for very many people, and therefore we are not allowing him.
However, while addressing journalists at his home, Besigye denied the allegation, saying that he was part of a delegation which was supposed to hand in a constitutional and electoral reform amendment proposals to the Legal and Affairs Committee of Parliament.
That committee invited FDC to present its views today at midday, and I was among those preparing to go with the leadership of FDC to present our views on this very, very important process of amending the constitution to improve the election management in this country.
It is at this point that Besigye decided to leave his home and head to Parliament, but was blocked even before he left his compound.
So whenever you get information, I don't leave.
We have reliable information that you yourself, you are going to participate and you are one of the leaders going to do that mayhem in our market, Kampala City. And therefore, you stopped from running.
The same situation was portrayed at embattled Kampala Lord Mayor's residence in Wakaliga. Heavily deployed around his home, Lukwago too was not allowed to go beyond his gate.
It's illegal. It is a violation of my rights. They have no reason whatsoever as to why they are blocking me from getting out of this place. In the first place, the law does not sanction that kind of behavior. That police have that latitude to come and seal off my home. Just woke up in the morning, I found the road barricaded, and of course the gate sealed off. They had parked the truck across the gate, and it was extremely difficult even to see off the kids to school.
Well, I've actually been talking.
After this confrontation with police, the opposition leaders said government was up to mischief ahead of the 2016 general elections.
Quite clearly talks to the type of election that Mr. Museveni is organizing for himself.
If this is a civic exercise and it's a legitimate one for that, why block us from getting access to Parliament? Your Excellency, do you own the Constitution of this Republic of Uganda, that it is your own document?
They say it's not the end of the road, as they will make sure that constitutional and electoral reforms are amended. Shemin Batalwo, WS News.
The dawn of Wednesday, however, saw a new development as several leaders of the opposition in Uganda appeared before the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee to submit their proposals on the Constitutional Amendment Bill 2015. Led by Dr. Kizza Besigye and Erias Lukwago, who were blocked from going to Parliament on Tuesday, they were finally allowed to enter Parliament amidst tight security. There was excitement, however, as former Prime Minister John Patrick Amama Mbabazi surprisingly entered the committee room.
Agenda mu Parliament ajje wano. Abatali wano tebagenda mu Parliament.
Opposition bigwigs had their turn on Wednesday to present their proposals on electoral reforms currently being scrutinized by the Parliamentary Committee on Legal and Parliamentary Affairs. After being blocked by police from leaving home on Tuesday, they still had to beat the tight security at parliament entrances.
You're pushing us away. You're pushing people as they go there. You're pushing people away as they go. As we proceed, that's the problem. Let people come. You're pushing them away. You're beating them.
Police attempted to block some members of BESG's entourage, but they were later allowed to enter.
We've come bringing our proposals on the reforms that are needed in the Constitution in order to make the management of elections in this country to be free and fair.
No. We do not handle them in any way which is not right. We're only doing our work. If only they complied to what we ask them to do, we wouldn't have these hassles.
Journalists who do not report from Parliament were barred as opposition members proceeded to the committee room. Inside the room, members presented their proposals to the committee, including removal of powers to appoint the Electoral Commission from the President, reduction of cabinet ministers, among others.
Elections have always been a problem in this country. In 1980, we went through a civil war for 5 years because of elections. We want the primary tally center to be handled at the constituency level so that we know which candidate has won in a particular constituency, and we have a tally center there. Many proposals regarding the handling of the patronage system that Mheshimiwa Ogalo talked about, beyond what was contained in just separating the ministers from Parliament. There are many other areas relating to patronage that unfavorably affect the management of elections that need to be specifically attended to.
But amidst the presentation by the opposition, former Prime Minister John Patrick Amama Mbabazi appeared, surprising many.
I think of course Mbabazi would like it.
The Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee is currently scrutinizing the bill and is receiving views from various stakeholders.
Shortly before presenting their proposals to the committee, the opposition party's leadership called for a crisis door-closed meeting at the 4GC headquarters on Katonga Road. Retired General Mugisha Muntu, the FDC president, explained to WBS TV that they were discussing their presentation.
On Tuesday, police was heavily deployed at the residence of former FDC leader, retired Colonel Kizza Besigye, a move that saw him and Lord Mayor Elias Lukwago blocked from going to Parliament. The two leaders' residences were under siege and they were not allowed to leave their homes, both in Kasangati and Wakaliga, respectively. They were supposed to be part of an opposition delegation to meet with officials sitting on the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee. The meeting was aimed at handing in their proposals for the constitutional and electoral reforms amendments. But with the unfolding of these events, the duo could not make it, hence calling for an urgent closed-door meeting for opposition leadership to forge a way forward.
We were supposed to appear before Parliament and make a presentation of our proposals from FDC. We went jointly as opposition parties, which we intend to do in all other days that we are supposed to make presentations. Today we are having a meeting of political parties to discuss the way forward, because we've already talked to Dr. Besigye. We know that even now they are still surrounding his house, and we have to weigh the different options that are open to us.
Muntu has also condemned and accused the force of failing to uphold the rule of law.
They do things with impunity. They basically don't care about the rule of law, and it is a struggle. It's not something that can be overturned overnight, and that's why we have to keep building our organizational capacities. That's why we have to keep working to raise the awareness of people, and then when we build momentum at a certain point in time, we can bring it to bear on the regime, remove it, and that's the only time you can expect any form of sanity in this country.
Meanwhile, Counsel Nicholas Opio, a human rights defender, says police's move to siege politicians' residences, especially those from the opposition, is total violation of human rights. He says the force should not be seen making lives of people difficult to enjoy their God-given rights and freedoms.
It is the attitude of the police to, with impunity, violate the fundamental rights and freedoms without any justification of leading opposition politicians in this country. It goes without saying that the actions are unlawful, the actions are a deep violation, a wanton violation of fundamental rights and freedoms of opposition politicians.
As a legal expert, what are the political implications of this move?
The timing of these actions is interesting. We are approaching elections. We are in a process of discussing constitutional reforms. The leaders were supposed to go to Parliament to present their views about the reforms that are being suggested by government. So it is again an attempt to destabilize, an attempt to cripple any meaningful contribution to the electoral reforms, to the reforms being suggested, but also to any attempt to have any meaningful contributions in the 11th hour reforms that are being introduced by government in Parliament.
And for Dr. Kabumba Businje, a legal don with Makerere University Faculty of Law, says that what police does justifies its partisan tendencies. This in a telephone interview.
Now, in terms of the constitutional implications, it's a very problematic sign if a leader or really a person who is influential in the opposition party politics and who wants to express his views and has been invited by the Committee of Parliament for that purpose, is then stopped from expressing his views in that regard by the police, non-partisan. Extremely unconstitutional, extremely problematic what has happened yesterday.
With just a few months to the general elections, events like this cannot spare the fear of the public if indeed the country is genuinely under the multi-party system. Jocelyn Chibule, WBS in Kampala.
In a related development, many rights pressure groups, the opposition inclusive, continue to front their constitutional reform proposals to catch the eye of the Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament for amendment consideration ahead of the February 2016 polls. However, the insurmountable proposals before the committee for consideration and those still on the way are likely to get the committee in a tricky situation of either deciding to hold the elections or rather to hold the elections and make proper constitutional amendments or give the exercise less time and allow the country to hold a sham election. Dr. Arthur Bainomo Gisha said if elections are to take place as planned in the Electoral Commission, then the Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament at the center of proposing the amendments to the House has to identify key and crucial amendments and prioritize.
With just 8 months to the 2016 polls, several rights groups, the opposition and the civil society continue to source for reforms that they think will influence a free and fair election come February next year. What is taking center stage at the Him is changing the Electoral Commission, its name, the President's powers to appoint its commissioners, and the tenure of service by the commissioners. Dr. Arthur Bainomo Gisha, the Executive Director, Advocates Coalition for Development and Environment, tells WBS TV that all the reforms are vital to the development of the country and to influence a free and fair election, but with a time frame available, both the government and the opposition should be realistic and focus on key reforms.
We are undertaking legal and constitutional reforms that would improve the electoral processes, provide the conditions for organizing free and fair elections. We are in the process of this. The timing, of course, is still short, but I think if there is a, we still have the opportunity to effect key and fundamental constitutional reforms.
And what would these key reforms be?
Key fundamental reforms include reform of the Electoral Commission. The reform of the Electoral Commission, because the Electoral Commission has been consistently classified or regarded by the opposition as partisan or towards the government. Is that the president still, as a fountain of honor, needs to be given that trust to be able to appoint these commissioners, but then of course they are approved.
On the issue of reinstating the presidential term limits, Dr. Bainom Gisha says that it is worth, however emphasizes that the law should not be targeting an individual.
A good law should not be targeting an individual. A good law should be there to serve the interests of the citizens of the country. But when you make a law to, for instance, disqualify an individual or to limit individual freedoms, that's not a law that actually would be acceptable. You can see that you're already in the process of actually enacting a defective law.
Incumbent Museveni, who many are perceiving as a prime target for this legislation, concluded his constitutional two terms in 2000. But due to the politics of patronage, intrigue and disrespect of the rule of law, the 7th Parliament decided to abolish the two-term limits enshrined in the 1995 Constitution and open doors of life presidency for him. While appearing before the Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament, the opposition asked for a postponement of next year's elections. But Bainom Gisha, a lecturer of peace and conflict resolution at Makerere University, says both the opposition and the government should reach a consensus to have the elections on board.
We are not like Burundi. Uganda is well placed to organize elections, and actually my elections are next year. We have almost 8 months. We've been around. There has not been any constitutional crisis, no civil war. The country is at peace from Arua to Chisoro. So why would elections not take place? I think we have the time on our side to organize free and fair elections. What the government and the opposition should work for is to agree on these reforms without each one flexing their muscles. They should look at the bigger picture of this country, peace and stability.
With all the growing pressure on both the constitution and electoral reforms, the electoral body is already at the third phase of implementing its 2016 roadmap. Jocelyn Nachibule, WBS in Kampala.
In more news, security was intensified in Galatia village in PG district following a tip-off of a planned move to cause havoc with the intention of disrupting the registration process.
These cases are particularly seen in Galatia and Galavi villages, where some of the NRM supporters were denied NRM cards to register in the yellow books on grounds that they did not belong to the NRM party. This culminated into a physical exchange of blows. Many were seriously hurt and rushed to Nswanjere Seminary Health Center in a critical condition. However, members claim that these incidents are as a result of political pressure building up from the Minister of Trade and Industry, Amelia Chambadi's camp. They allege that Amelia Chambadi issued a directive not to register any person whom they suspect to be an anti-supporter of the NRM party.
It is so unfortunate that the DPC and the DSO of Mpigi, they have given instructions to the PSO who is writing. And by the way, he's not even supposed to be writing according to the NRM rules. They have given him instructions not to register me and my family. Even though I have the transfer forms and the ID, national ID, he has still gone ahead and said he has instructions from the DSO not to write my name in the NRM book. I've reported my case to the NRM Secretariat. I've written a complaint, and I'm thinking if by tomorrow my case is not attended to, I will let the villagers, the people of the constituency, do whatever they want to do to have me in their books.
Tuli mu registeringa ku bitabo ebya yellow book n'ekijja kitya nga abaregisteringa bonna babeera ba Amelia balinga bayawula mu pate. Abavubuka tebaagala baregisteringa, baagala abakadde nti ye movement Congo.
tukooye okutiisibwa ne bannaffe okutuusibwako obuzibu obw'engeri ezimu. Osseeko omwami gwe bayita Ssebulinde John Bosco w'abavubuka owa NRM aliwo kugatta na kutabaganya so si kuvumirira na kwonoona.
This raging chaos has forced the police to intensify security in most of the registration points, particularly in Galatia village where the aspiring Mauta MP Grace Kansime resides. However, the NRM supporters in the area attribute the Muduma town beatings to the police in the area for failing to provide security until some people were hurt during the incident. Alosia Sengendo, WBS TV, Mpigi.
This is Week in Focus on WBS TV. Do stay with us for so much more still to come.